Okay, so recording the first episode of season 2 of Inconstant. I'm just gonna be rambling a bit. Got out of practice of recording these, so see how it goes. So the next season, we're actually going to be doing is I'm going to be interviewing various people I know about what their favourite stories are. So the plan was for actually this week's episode to be with a friend of mine, Anthony, who is an actor, and we're going to be talking about Fight Club. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties while trying to record the episode over Skype. So what I'm going to be doing today is just doing a bit of rambling and wittering on about a few different subjects. So the first one we're going to be talking about is the UFC this weekend. John Jones is going to be fighting Dominic Reyes. Let me just move away from the mic to grab my headphones so I can actually hear what I'm saying to you people while recording this. So, is that the mic? Wait a second. Wait a second. Oh, yeah, that is. Insert that in here. It's professional outfit, people. Professional outfit. 100%. Alright, let me insert my headphones a bit. Okay, so let's talk about this UFC card with John Jones versus Dominic Reyes. So I don't know. I think that's a fairly. It's gonna be a tough fight for John. I think Dom's got one hit quitting power, so he's able to knock out people with one punch. He's got that classic Mirko Cro Cop triple threat attack of the sort of body kick, left high kick, and sort of like straight left hand as well. But John Jones is the complete package. Let's see if John Jones is going to be a bit complacent, as I think he's looked in his last couple of fights with Anthony Smith and the Brazilian fella, who took him to a draw, even though he had pretty bad knee injuries in both his legs. Let's look at the full card to see what else is happening on that card. Should have maybe checked this out before I started recording, but you know me, I'm not the most well prepared person in the world. So John Jones, Dominic Reyes is the top fight. Then we've got Valentina Shevchenko versus Caitlin Chookagian. I don't really care at all about that fight. We've got Juan Adams versus Justin Taffer. Look at that. Look at that fight. So Justin Taffer, have I ever seen him fight before? Let's look at his record. 3-0. He's had one fight in the UFC where he knocked out his opponent, Juan Adams. He's a very recognizable person, but I don't know if I've ever remember watching him fight. Okay, so he lost to Greg Hardy, lost to Arjun Bulla. he's that can't be right. Why are they putting him on the card? So he's lost to Greg Hardy. He lost to Arjun Bulla, beat De La Rocha. So he's 1-2 in the UFC, and he's the third fight down on this card. That's just craptacular, isn't it? Let's see who else is on the card. Come on, iPad. Come on, iPad. You're the little tablet device that can. Why are you doing that? Get rid of that. Okay, so Massage Bektud versus Danny Ings. That's a banger. That's a banger. That's going to be a great fight. Derek Lewis versus Ilya Latifi. That should be a banger as well. So that's the main card. Who's on the prelims? Trevin Giles. Not heard of him. Antonio Arroyo. Lauren Murphy and Andrea Lee are on the card. Alex Morono versus Kalen Williams. He's on the early prelims. Bunch of guys I've never heard of. Okay, well, Andrew Ewell's. That's a bit weird. He should be fine a little bit further higher up on the card. So that's UFC. It's basically maybe a 2-3 fight card that are worth watching, and the rest of the fights are with schlubs. So yeah, there's that one. No interesting or exciting analysis from me regarding that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the coronavirus and this drive for people to sort of like repatriate people who are sort of like maybe visiting China back to their native countries. I'm just thinking, maybe leave the, potentially infected, people potentially infected with a deadly virus, but in the country where the potentially dangerous virus is, instead of bringing them back here to perhaps infect the rest of us. I know they've got that quarantine thing going on, but this thing's got it's infectious while it's dormant. So you don't know, man. Like, there might have been visitors from China, um, already flown back before. They've been had the opportunity to enjoy the quarantine situation in their native country. So I'm just thinking, I've got a friend out there actually at the moment in China, Lucy. I'm just thinking, Lucy maybe should just stay there instead of bringing those germs back back here to the UK with you. What's the other thing I wanted to talk about? Oh yes, I've been doing a bit of online dating recently, and I have no game whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen. I've got no game whatsoever. I am terrible. The apps I'm using at the moment is Hinge and Muzmatch and Bumble. Hinge is actually fairly decent. You can kind of send people messages in response to sort of prompts that they've got in their pictures, whereas Bumble is just swipe left, swipe right. So yeah, I just want to read out a message I sent to a lady I matched with on Bumble. Okay, Marcus is asking me something, so yeah, just give me a second. Okay, I'll sort that out in a bit. Alright, okay, so this is a message I sent to a lady on Hinge. She asked me what my survival plans for Brexit were. And I said to this, I was discussing Brexit strategy with my mates, and I reckon hoarding toilet paper might be the best way to go. Most of it's imported, and I also said, but people might just decide to use water to wash their bums instead of wiping, and she's not replied to that since. It's hardly surprising, really. So yeah, what else is happening? I've been doing a few job applications. Being unemployed is rough, dude. need to start getting some money in. What else did I get up to this week? So I've been organising a BJJ comp, which is been a bit stressful. Been using the Smooth Comp software, which is been a lifesaver. Absolutely fantastic piece of kit. So if you're organising a martial arts comp, I highly recommend you use that piece of software. And whilst I sat down to do an interview for Sam Bunch, who's writing a book on. It's called Collecting Conversations. So she did one book on women where she spoke to 100 women, and now she's doing another book on men, and sort of just collecting their opinions and experiences about sort of what it's like to live in, um, you know, live in the UK at the moment. So that should be quite interesting to see what she makes of it when it comes out. What else has happened? Nothing much really. This is a bit of a rambling uh, podcast that's going on. I should have perhaps better prepared for what I was going to say to you guys. Oh, I recorded a podcast earlier on this year with the girls from In Your Own Words, where I talked about Super Crash. So check that out. Their podcast is really good. Your Own Words is a podcast where guest invite the host invite guests to talk about books that have had a big impact on them, and it's a lovely podcast. Both of them are very uh, likable people, and I really genuinely hope that their podcast goes from strength to strength. What else have I been getting on with? Oh, I've joined the Society of Young Publishers because that's an industry I've decided I want to get into, and I went to their annual AGM, and my social anxiety kicked up big time. I went in there I attended with the plan to speak to people, sort of get my name out there, just meet new people and make new connections. And I stood in a corner for most of it, not talking to anyone until sort of the last 10 minutes, where I managed to summon the courage to speak to three people, but it's kind of too little too late. And then I also attended a marriage networking event at Palmer's Green MCEC. The format was a bit weird. It was uh, essentially speed dating, so 3 minutes speaking to each one of the ladies there who also want to get married, and then a mixer um, at the end of it, and I just completely bottled the mixer. I stood in the corner again for like 10-15 minutes, and then walked out, and one of the mosque uh, trustees there, or one of the guys running the event there, said, "Oh, are you sure you want to leave? Is there anyone you want me to approach on your behalf if there's a girl you want to speak to?" And I just said, dude, I can't. I haven't got the courage for that at the moment. But I'm hopefully going to be messaging a couple of these girls on these uh, dating apps, and a couple of them got my number now, so I'm going to ask them if they want to speak in person. What else? Yeah, I'm trying to get back into reading a bit. So the last book I read was Diaries of a Bookseller by Sean Blythe. That was a pretty decent read, and I've been listening to a few audio books, and I'm going to try and finish Half a Yellow Sun. And I can't remember the author's name, so I'm going to try and finish that off this week. That's kind of it, guys. So I'll upload this to tonight, and yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks, guys. Bye.